Hello and welcome back to PaizoCon 2019 here at the Doubletree Inn by Hilton. And we are, of course, in Seattle, Washington. I know that I said we were going to take a couple of hours break between panels, but that was before we found out that we have the opportunity to stream another panel here in that break. So I'm happy to announce as a better surprise addition to our schedule is Gaming as a Show from the crew of Dragons and Things. And joining us for this will be Ben Burch, Jared Hoy, and James Rodehaver. So if you wanted to know what it takes to take your home game or your ambitions of playing for an audience, these gentlemen will be showing you the details and how they've done such a great job at Dragons and Things. Now, if you have any questions, we do, of course, want to hear those questions from you when the question panel part opens. But do wait until they ask for questions, or else we might lose your question, and we don't want to do that. Thank you all for anybody who is tuning in for this surprise seminar. We hope you all enjoy it, and again, hope you're all having a great PaizoCon. Now, I'm going to sign off here, and when you next see the stream come back up, it will be with Gaming as a Show with Dragons and Things. Thank you.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing? We are back for another panel today, just the one we are going to be talking about gaming as a show, because we do a show ourselves on Twitch. Yeah. It is called Dragons and Things, and we have taken our group of friends and we have sat them in front of cameras. And yes, we forced them to play every single Friday night live in perpetuity for your entertainment. And we know that there are a lot of other groups out there, gaming groups, who want to do live streams on Twitch. You want to do your podcast. You want to get your games out into the world. And there's a lot that goes behind that besides just sitting down and rolling dice. It's a little more complex. So we have Jared Hoy here. He can talk about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that happens, because he runs our tech. He sets up our cameras. He sets up our microphones. He knows what equipment we need. When things break, he can fix it.
Sometimes.
He also plays, and he's a producer on the show, so he has a perspective from basically every facet of the production. I am James Rodehaver. I am the GM for our show, and I also am a producer. And this is Ben.
I'm Ben Burch, all right, and I play on the show. I've also GM'd on the show, all right. Jared has GM'd on the show, so there's a couple of different perspectives.
He's also a resident gummy bear aficionado.
If you need any questions answered on gummy bears, I have all the gummy bear knowledge in the entire world.
It's true.
So be prepared for that.
Should we just open it to Q&A about gummy bears now?
Yes, I'm sure everybody has burning questions about gummy bears.
Yeah, so
I mean, the first thing I would say about this and about taking your game and putting it out there into the world is you got to decide what format you want to use. I know podcasts and Twitch streams are the most popular right now, or live streams rather. I mean, Twitch is not the only platform, but it is kind of the biggest platform for live streaming. Jared, why don't you talk a little bit about the sort of what goes in, what do you need to do to stream on Twitch, because that's where we live.
Right. Okay. Well, step one, decide to take your show to the masses. Like Jim said, step two, figure out the format. We opted to go a little more hybrid between just a game and a show, and you have to temper your game to essentially make it appealing to other people, if that's your goal, or if you're just recording it. First thing you don't even need one technically. Sound is the most important thing.
Yeah.
You don't need a camera if you're just starting out. If you're worried like, can I just jump in? I would focus on sound, because if they can hear you well, it can be a podcast at that point. It could be a stream on YouTube. It could be you throw it up on Facebook, anywhere. Camera wise, you don't need to go get a Red. You don't need to get an Alexa or a Blackmagic. You can do the Logitech cameras, or the webcams are really good these days. I mean, I can dive into how to improve the visual quality of your show all day, but if I was ranking what to do, it would be audio, then upgrade the computer that you're streaming from so it can handle the throughput and data, and the OBS software or the Streamlabs software or XSplit or whatever your Twitch broadcaster is. It's very important that the computer can handle that and not lag down, so you don't start dropping frames or get the choppy video feeds.
Yeah,
which of those programs do you recommend for somebody who is starting with the streaming?
If you're just starting out, Streamlabs OBS is a very simple thing to get into, because it's essentially a button that just says go live. There is also OBS, open source broadcast system, I think, studio maybe, and it's a little more complicated, but they're all about the same. There's like a scene, you set the scene, so you enter it and select the cameras that you want and the art assets, and then you just click on it and it will show that. You can get those OBS, and Streamlabs OBS are free software. So if you're looking to get in with very low overhead, that's a way to go. There's also professional stuff, higher end softwares like XSplit and Gamecaster that they give you more bells and whistles, but do you need the bells and whistles? Because your game's the story point anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
If you're just getting started, you probably want something
Yeah,
that's low barrier to entry. So free software is going to work for you at first.
And it's the same if you're doing, like we do a game where we're all on the same couch. But there are tons of games out there where people are Skyping in or Zooming in, Roll20, like whatever format you use. To me, the most crucial thing is going to be your audio, because if they can't hear you, they don't care.
Oh yeah, I think 100% the audio is definitely the case, because you got some loud players like myself.
We had to get special mixing board for him.
Because I tend to get very excited and very loud, and then I'll scream and be pumped up, and I blow people's eardrums out. So the goal has been to temper my voice and
raise everybody
else up. So yeah.
And one good thing that focusing on audio quality does for you right off the bat is, yes, you can live stream video, but if you have recorded audio, you can cut that down into a podcast format if you want to. It gives you that option. So if you, again, starting with audio is probably a great way to make sure that you have a show that people can tolerate. A lot of people will say, like we've gotten feedback where it's like, if your audio quality is scratchy and bad, they can't, it doesn't matter what it looks like, they can't stand to be on your channel. So that's why we're emphasizing
We've gotten notes, a lot, I guess, of the, say 100 people are watching your stream, you're probably only going to get like 15 or 20 of them chatting in the chat box. The rest of them either have it on in the background and are doing something. Like we've got notes that, I put it up while I'm painting minis, or I'm doing it up when I'm running through other games. Like it's just there as a background ambience. So if your ambience is garbage, they're not going to come back to it.
Another important thing about, we talk about, this is the equipment that you need to get started here. Here's some software that you want, but you also need to have the format of your show sort of down.
Yeah.
There are a lot of shows out there where you watch a group of people play a game. That's you're not an active participant in that, like you're just watching them, and that's fine. We do more of an interactive format in the sense that we chat with people, like we read comments during our stream, we chat with people during the stream, and we have, because Twitch allows you to monetize what you're doing, which is an important part of keeping your overhead from eating into your real life budget, we have monetization options where people can affect the game mechanically by cheering for us, which is Twitch has a bit currency, which is like every bit is a penny. You can cheer for streamers that you like, and we allow for that to affect the game in certain ways. It allows to give characters a reroll or a small bonus to the next thing they're going to do. Or if people drop like huge wild donations, we have wild magic, where we'll just throw these huge magic effects on the field, and people get really into that. But the important thing is like, what is your format going to be?
Right.
We know, again, there are streams where it's like you are a spectator. You are not there to participate in that, and people like that kind of content, and there's an audience for it. But then there's also an audience for people who really want to they want to feel like they're in the room with you, like you're their friend, they're chatting with you while you're playing, and you want to keep that brand consistent. You want to outline how you want that to look before you sit down for your first session. You want to know, because your players need to know whether they should be expected to read comments. And reading comments in itself is a little bit, it's a technical challenge in that we have Jared, who is mostly off screen, because reading a Twitch chat during a game is very difficult. Because a comment is there and then it disappears as more people chat, so we would miss a really good comment. But if you've got an open Google Doc and you have somebody off screen who is copying and pasting comments, well, that allows you to preserve comments that you really like or questions that you really like, and then the players can get to it at an opportune moment.
It also allows you to curate kind of what flow is getting to your talent on the couch.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is okay. Like if someone sees a negative comment, not everyone's going to be okay with that. Some people, it will hit them deeper than others. So our method, we just don't show unless it's about them. We show
we show all the
negative
negative comments about me because they think it's funny when I get a negative comment on there. Whatever.
It's pretty funny, right?
I deal with it.
Yeah.
So
He knows.
I'm usually the one making.
He's making the comments.
I will say that for me, a huge thing when you're looking at what kind of show you want to create is just focusing on what specific genre you want to play in. You know, there are so many streams out there. There is so much that goes on. It's like, what do you want to be? And you have to be very, very specific with it. Do I want to run APs? Do I want to run homebrew? How do I feel about this? Do I want to take this and turn it into a very dark thing? Do I want all of my characters to be in sort of a gothic feel? Do I want it to be happy-go-lucky and everybody running around doing whatever? I think when we first sat down and was like, we're gonna do dragons and things, we had no concept of that, but it turned into this, like, we turned it into a genre of our own of causing chaos, being chaotic, but somehow still telling a great story out of all of that chaos.
A good example of that is we did a limited run where we did a couple other shows. Like we tried, like I GM'd a separate game, and going in, I knew this game's gonna be a little more ridiculous. So the people, like Jim runs a great story, a great game where you get up on the edge of your seat and you're anticipating, you're wanting to go with the characters. I'm leaning into puns and making ridiculous things happen. So I think it comes down to the GM and what tone you want to take.
And just establishing that tone again with the players and making sure they're all on board with that. Because one thing about when you turn your game into a show, you're building a brand with it. It's in a lot of ways, like, yes, it's great to sit down with your friends and play and have that camaraderie with people that you've known for a long time, and you have all those inside jokes and stuff. But people who are coming into your stream or listening to your podcast, they're there to be entertained, and you have to make sure that you're giving them what they're there to see. And again, like if you have a more of a silly tone where you're focusing on sort of the comedic aspects of role playing and that, you want to keep that consistent. You want to make sure that your players are on board with that. You want to make sure that as a GM, when you're writing out the story, like you got to stay true to that. Even if you have a great idea for something else, it's like, well, the show you're building.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. Sometimes you have great ideas that aren't going to fit in your show, and whereas at your table you might be okay throwing it in because it's just you and your buddies.
We actually have a lot of like live TV has what's called a run of show. It's a document of, okay, we need to be through the intro in X minutes onto the next point, and we actually have structured that because that keeps us on pace and we don't, drag on one moment that just takes too long. Now again, we all have video production backgrounds and filmmaking backgrounds, so we came into it from that angle, and that's kind of our unique look at things. So it may not work. What works for us may not work for you, but this is what we've found over 2.5 years has worked for us. So.
Well, I'll say that my background is not in production. My background is in acting and improv acting, and so going into a live stream and as a player is extremely different than when I'm just sitting down at home. Like, and when I go home, I'm like snacking on chips. I'm doing whatever I want to. I'm eating. I can get up. I can leave. I can tune out if I have to. But for the most part, I don't have to be on every single moment when I'm playing at home. When I take that into a live stream, you have to be quick on your feet. You have to think, and you have to be more prepared. You, for instance, if my character, we came in with characters that were solidified into what they were, and so I've had this character for quite some time, and in some of our offshoot storylines, one time I played a villain, and when I was getting ready for it, I had to practice the voice that I was doing it for not just days in advance. I practiced it for weeks in advance, knowing that this was coming up. And even when it got to that point of like the camera will be on me and I've already practiced this, I've already rehearsed it, it was still the little fear popped up in your head of like, is this really the right choice? And you just kind of have to break through that. But the point being, if I hadn't had practiced that for 2 weeks going into it, then going into the stream, I just would have probably bailed on it and done something else, and it wouldn't have been as good as it could have. And I would say like I've got backup characters ready that I continually week by week work on their voices just so that if it comes to it, I could switch into that one. Yeah.
What's it like writing for a stream versus a table at home?
Oh, well,
like how do you have to account for?
Yeah, writing, you have to, your time. Our stream is 4 hours long. So, and I know, since we do a lot of audience interaction, I know that I probably need about 2.5 hours to 3 hours worth of gameplay content, because the rest of it's going to be chatting with the audience. It's going to be doing our sponsor shout outs, which you guys again should factor in. If you're going to put on a show, you're going to want to get sponsors, because you're going to want to have we give out prizes a lot on our stream, which helps. It sort of incentivizes engagement on top of the mechanical advantages they can give to players affecting the game. They can also win like physical things. So we have like Norse Foundry sends us dice, and then we are able to give those out to players or to audience members. But you have to, the cost to that is we give out shout outs. We do a lot of, we talk about our sponsors a lot on stream. So you want to factor those things in. So I know I need about 2.5 hours to 3 hours worth of game content, and you want to pace it out. You don't want to leave your players hanging a lot of the times. A lot of times at a home table, I love to have a very open, sandboxy environment where the players will figure out what to do. And it's like, well, I can't run a stream like that, because if that creates dead air, I'm probably going to lose newcomers, is the big thing. Your established audience, if they like you, yeah, they're going to stick around. Like they're forgiving of dead air. They're forgiving of mistakes that you make. But what you're trying to catch are those people who just randomly see your, especially if you're using Twitch, like if we randomly pop up as a suggestion for somebody and they click on it, you guys know from like watching YouTube videos or other Twitch streams where it's like, usually you got about 30 seconds, sometimes less. And if you don't like what you see, it's easy for you to click out of it. So if you've got a bunch of time being wasted where the players don't really know what they're doing, and they're kind of like they're trying to study their character sheet because they don't know what their abilities are or whatever. It can really turn off a newcomer very, very quickly. So you got to keep the pacing up, which means that I use a lot of drag and drop encounters is what I call them. Basically, I'm always ready to throw an encounter if things are starting to stall out because the players haven't quite figured out what to do, or they're not quite catching on to a clue that an NPC gave them. Like, I can just throw in an encounter real quick to re-engage everybody and make sure that the pacing of the episode is up, because that's a big thing. You don't want dead air. But that doesn't mean you have to be perfect. And I think that a lot of times I feel like as a GM, if there's even sometimes my mind will blank on a spell or ability and I like panic in a moment, it's like, you can breathe a little bit. Like it's not completely unforgiving.
It's not end all be all.
But at the same time, you do want to be prepared. I would say that I definitely prepare, especially for mechanics, more than I do at a home game, because at a home game, it's like, yeah, if I open up the book and take the time to look up a spell, it's not that big a deal. Not that you want to do that all the time, but on a stream, it can be a problem. Like, you don't want to spend like a minute looking up a mechanic is too long. Like, that's way too long. You've got to be quick. Sometimes even that means just making a mistake. Just make a ruling and move on, because you don't want to stop. You don't want to stop. Stopping is bad.
How long do you say that you write a certain amount of the show, and how much does that compare to how much we actually do of the show? Like,
I always like to be over prepared for sure.
But hours wise, how much do you write per week?
Oh geez, I would say that for a lot of episodes, depending on the episode, it's probably about 6 to 10 hours of game prep a week, because I want to be ready to go with the stuff that I need to tell the players. But then, that's the game aspect of it. But there's a whole other side to having a show, which is social media.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get real friendly with social media. And if you're the kind of person who does not like Twitter or Instagram, you got to get over that fast, because you got to do it.
And don't be afraid to split it up amongst your team. Like, Ben handles a lot of the Instagram stuff.
Yes.
Jim does the Facebook stuff. Like, don't be afraid to embrace your team, because you are growing. Much like a table is telling a collaborative story, you're growing as a group. And without splitting it up, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, absolutely.
10 hours alone on game prep, how does he have time to do anything else?
I will say you gotta find your friends that are willing to dive into the deep end with you. I mean, when we first started doing Dragons and Things, we had a week to put this all together, and it was, all right, everybody get together. We're gonna go paint some paneling, and then Ben, you're gonna build a set in a garage. Craig, you're gonna clean out your garage while Ben's building it. Everybody's getting to work. Everybody's moving things. If you're gonna do this, you have to have people that will buy in with you. If you put it all on yourself, you're just gonna get burnt out, and you're gonna hurt yourself, and that is not what anybody wants.
Yeah. And that's gonna be a big factor in what format you want to do. If you really want to do live streams, understand that what you're asking of both yourself and your entire team is to be consistently free for 2 to 5 hours at the same time every single week. We stream every Friday at 6 p.m. And now, granted, stuff happens. It's not like and ultimately, what are the consequences if somebody has to miss an episode? Like, well, we bring in a guest, their character is out for a little bit. I mean, it does happen, but for the most part, you're making a commitment to be live consistently at the same time every single week, barring absolute disasters or huge events. Like, we didn't have an episode this week because we were up here for PaizoCon. But at the same time, while we're here at PaizoCon, we're constantly tweeting, we're constantly uploading images, we're going live to our Facebook at least twice a day. We're doing panels like this where we stream out to people.
Smile.
No, we're in a panel.
Great, yeah, but I gotta be constantly tweeting.
It's gotta be constantly tweeting.
And just even if you're on Twitch and you're not streaming, doesn't mean you're not on Twitch. One of the biggest things you can do is build community.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying go to another stream and just be like, hey, look at my stream. Go to a stream, watch their stream, interact with them, talk to them. You develop friends, because while there are a bajillion live play streams, none of them, as far as I know or have had feedback, look at anyone as competition.
Yeah,
everyone looks at everyone as community, and that branches across all publishers and systems and groups. Like people will come from a Saving Throw show and be on our show. We'll send someone over to Wild Cards. Like it's. In fact, we'd like to do more of that. We'd like to get out more and just build the community further.
Yeah, that's the thing is like Saving Throw has a show on that starts halfway through our show and then goes a little, and we have got and like some people would consider that like competition. Oh, we're competing with them to see who can have the view. But it has not ever been like that with us, and it's generally that way with all the streamers. If you contact somebody,
rate them when our show's over.
Yeah.
We'll send all of our viewers to their channel.
If you have a good idea of where you're at in the community, and just reach out and be like, hey, just want to let you know, I watch your stuff. This is what we do. Generally, people are pretty cool about it. So.
And even on Twitter, just a blanket compliment, or it's like, hey, I caught your show, or I caught your product and I really liked it. Just open a dialogue and talk about it, because you're not having that dialogue for you and the person you're talking to. You're having that dialogue for everyone else watching that stream as well. Like yesterday, Jim's Twitter game is strong. He got recognized not from the show, but from his Twitter.
It's weird.
And his Twitter is a cartoon picture. So,
speaking of social media, what are tools that you have? Because like obviously, yes, we have the show. But then what are some things that you've had to create to make it work?
In terms of social media, you have to always remember that you're going to have your good weeks and you're going to have your bad weeks, and they will happen no matter what you do. You are going to you're going to have weeks like this week where you're just like killing it and you're like, yeah, I'm at PaizoCon. Everything's going great for me. Everything's going good. Hey, boo, blah, blah, blah. People are like interested in it. People are seeing all this stuff. So they're coming to your show. They're looking at what's going on. And then you have weeks where nothing is happening. And you're scrounging for any scrap of content that you can put out there that people can see and people can want more of. Those happen. The best thing to do is to take lots of pictures, save them, don't put them all out at once, because then you can be like, oh, it's a down week. Hey, remember when we were back at PaizoCon? That was so much fun. Boom. Now you've got interaction and you've got something to like really tangibly grasp onto. The more it is extremely difficult to continually day by day put yourself and do this job as a social media person and do everything that you want to do. Generally, you can use things like Hootsuite and stuff like that push your tweets out or push your Instagram posts out, and that they push it out at a specific time on a specific date. However, when you do that, it has a feeling of being fabricated and not in the moment. So you kind of got to find a balance in your words and in your posts about how to stay in the moment and be real with your audience, and also still be planning ahead for all of that. So
one of the best things that Ben and Jamie did was they took portions of our clipped episodes and created image macro GIFs.
I didn't do that. That's Jamie. Jamie's a rock star.
I communicate completely sometimes with GIFs from our show. They're instantly shareable. They're quick and they're funny and they're the best moments. So like we have some of our GIFs have more play than we have episode views.
Yeah.
So they're getting out there. Like you can search Dat Dragon Show on Facebook or Tenor and just in Twitter, and boom, there's like.
And there's like Jim being like, yeah, I'm gonna kill all my players, and like you can use that as a GIF always. Just I'm gonna kill all my players.
It's forever content essentially.
And that's stuff that we see in the wild. Like people who have never seen an episode of Dragons and Things will be posting our GIFs somewhere. Like we see those just kind of randomly out in the world sometimes from people who have no connection to us whatsoever. So it's actually really kind of cool. Like when you find.
But if you're gonna do that, brand everything. Brand everything. Watermark what you're doing. So like, even if it is just a little logo, at least people know at some point like, okay, Dragons and Things. Mm-hmm. Oh, that must be from a show. Boom. Mm-hmm. Now they have some sort of knowledge about that.
Also, get a Discord. Set up a Discord
Discord's
community.
huge, yeah.
That way we can have our fans chat directly with our cast members throughout the week.
Hear that, Paizo? Set up a Discord.
Also, partner interaction. Paizo, we are a Paizo partnered show, and I believe Quigley and his wife took over the stream a couple times. Like,
Yeah.
So like, you have that opportunity for interactivity between sponsors and between partners to make awesome content. And I think at the heart of it, that's what everyone just wants to do.
Get comfortable with a little bit of Photoshop skills. This comes a lot with like delegating and stuff. Like Ben, he posts a lot of stuff, but he's not just posting raw images that he takes on his phone. He's editing them. He's adding text. Making the GIFs is a huge time-consuming job for somebody, and it requires a lot of you got to learn how to do that stuff. I would say before you ever record your first episode or stream your first episode, start practicing with that stuff. Get used to using those tools to create GIFs. Like what tools do you use to create GIFs?
I don't
Jamie,
create
I know.
the
What
GIFs.
tools does Jamie use?
Jamie is the rock star. Jamie
Call
does
Jamie
all
up
of
and
it.
ask her
Why?
what.
Jamie's in the middle of a show right now. Jamie goes ahead and she takes. So one thing that we've been able to do is the fans clip portions of the show that they really like. Cool, because that is instantly a 30-second little clip that if we find something good in, then we can take that and we can use it. So every week after the show, we go home and we watch the clips that week, and then if there's a good one, we'll download it onto the page, onto our computer, and then within a few weeks, she's clipping it, making it smaller, adding text, and this is all done through iMovie, and then we put it in through Giphy, and but Giphy's really
Tenor.
Giphy's really kind of a punk. Giphy has a great converter to make your movie into a GIF, but then Giphy, I don't know if there's any Giphy people out there, but I've been trying to
You've
communicate
said
with
Giphy a
all of
lot.
you. I'm trying to communicate with them, but they won't ever respond to me. So Tenor is the one that we use, and they work.
A lot of times I get questions about like the overlay or like the graphical front of the over the video. A lot of times like, hey, I'm gonna make my own, where should I start? The easiest way to start is don't have an overlay. You don't need one. You can, if when you're ready, you can polish it up. But if there's one that you really like you watch our show, you really like our overlay, mimic it. Open Photoshop and copy it. And I mean, don't copy it directly because
Don't copy it.
but change it, make it yours, and just recreate it. And then because usually you'll find that someone else's system doesn't work exactly how it will for you, but it gives you a springboard into making it your own.
I mean, the basics of that is go watch a whole bunch of other streams. If you want to stream, go and watch a whole bunch of other streams. Watch one episode of like 20 different people and see what they're doing and see what you take notes on what you like about what you see. Take notes about what you don't like about what you see, so that you can build a show that you're comfortable with and that you want to put out into the world.
And don't be afraid to email or reach out to the streamer and be like, hey, what equipment are you using? Or what I really like this aspect. Can you walk me through? 9 times out of 10, they'll be more than happy to engage you.
Yeah, I watch or listen to at least 7 other podcasts or streams. Yeah. It is it's a daily thing to like check in and see what's going on, because now that you're making your game into a show, you are part of the community. Yeah. That's how quickly it happens, and you have to be involved in the community.
Like, how do you work in the space if you don't know the space, kind of thing?
Exactly.
In terms of whether you are going to podcast or live stream or record video and then upload that video like to YouTube, or you could do it to Twitch. Like you can just upload recorded video to Twitch. It doesn't have to be live, but that's going to sort of change your options in ways that you can monetize what you're doing, because at the end of the day, if you are not going to monetize your show, you're going to spend a lot of money, and that's fine. If that's what you want to do, great. We monetize our show on Twitch again by offering you can basically give a direct donation to, and we have various levels and tiers where you can affect the game directly. We also have a Patreon. Patreon's a great way to generate sort of steady monthly income, because the donations and stuff, if we have a really successful episode where a lot of people have cheered and given us money, great for that night. But if the next week it kind of falls off, then, well, that's a problem. So Patreon's a great way to generate steady, consistent monthly income, but just understand that that's another facet of the job, because with Patreon comes a whole bunch of rewards that you promise to, and you give us $5 a month, we give you an extra reward on top of the show. So the show itself is one part of this. Now you are also promising more with a Patreon, which is great because it gives you a lot of opportunities, again, to engage with your fans, and you're getting steady, reliable income, but you are taking on another part of the job, and that's important to note.
From the producer side, the Patreon thing, be very, very mindful of physical rewards, because you will potentially spend over and above what you bring in on shipping and handling costs.
Yeah.
So it's just something to, I'm not saying don't do it, because we have a t-shirt thing, we have a dice, like we have a ton, but just be mindful and factor that into the line
It's
item.
really easy when you're planning out your Patreon campaign or your rewards or prizes that you're going to give out to your audience. It's really easy to just say, oh yeah, we'll do buttons. Buttons are so easy. We've got Joe who can draw really great. He's going to draw fan art. We're going to put it on a button. We're going to send it to every fan every month. And then you get to the end of the month and you realize you have to send out 100 buttons. Not today, but in 30 days as well. And 30 days after that, and you realize like it's a big thing to do. Like don't think it's something that'll just happen. They're all good ideas, and I'm not saying don't take those things on. Just know that you have to have somebody who's going to be on that. It's part of delegating that work. Nobody on our stream is just a player who shows up on Friday and then we don't hear from them or talk to them the rest of the week, because there's a lot of jobs that they also take on to do to help grow the show and support the other aspects of it that aren't just the gameplay.
And when I took on all these jobs, I was promised much money in return.
How's that working out?
Never promised
It's not
you.
going well.
In regards to money, we've said a couple times that it will cost money to do a show. That is not 100% true in money as money, but investment and time also quantifies as money.
Yeah.
Show days, we go live at 6. I'm there to start tech at 2. And we shoot until 10 o'clock, 11. So on top of any other job I have, Fridays, I've got another full-time job.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you have to kind of think about and factor in. And nothing is insurmountable. Just work the problem.
And it's simple things like we get dinner for the cast every time we stream. Like that's something like, and it's not a lot, but it's like, again, because especially if you're doing a live stream, if you're going to go live, we're asking them to come in at 6 p.m. every single Friday night, which means that the least we can do is provide them a meal while they're there so that they can eat. Well, that's why we have, like, it would be wonderful to live in a world, because I know a lot of people, it's like, well, I'm not here for money. I just want to create this content. I just want to have fun with my friends, and that's noble, and like, there's nothing wrong with that, but just understand that if you really want to go with this zero budget idea, it's going to be really, really hard to get people to stay with you, again, on a consistent basis, because people, like, stuff happens. Like, every time that they come in, that's work that they're not doing. That's something they're taking that time out of their lives to come do that.
I mean, you have to factor in things like, okay, I'm going to be running lights more frequently, which means my power consumption is going to go up, which means I now have a higher power. You have to make sure your internet has the throughput you need. Like, there's all these small little things that you don't mentally think about until it's already upon you.
Yeah.
So it's just try to be mindful of what those expenses would be.
I guess the point of that is it's just that, you know, the idea of monetizing your content is not cynical. It's because there's a real world cost to producing it. Even if you're not going big with it, even at a lower level, there is a real world cost to making that show happen.
Jim Jam sounds real cynical right now about all of this. It's just because it's day 3 of the con,
3.
You know, no, but honestly, we love doing our show.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think any one of us would switch doing what we're doing. There's definitely tricks and definitely little twists that go
workarounds to make things happen. Should we?
Yeah.
Question?
Yeah. Do we have any questions at all?
Do it.
Go ahead. Step up to the microphone.
Hello. Any advice on casting a new live play show?
We got lucky in that our cast stemmed from a wildly successful narrative fantasy web series called Walking in Circles. So we kind of came in with the core cast in place, but I know it's always really tempting to cast your friends. Now again, we're speaking from an LA side, a Hollywood side of we have the luxury of holding auditions if we want. But I think it's find the right fit for your table more than just putting your friends there. Like when you're putting it's like you're putting a table together at home. You want to make sure everyone's temperament is in the same way. You kind of want that same aspect.
You want to make sure you have somebody with high energy who can maintain high energy through, again, 3 to 4 hours at a time, especially if you're live, because I mean your people are watching you in that moment. And you want somebody who is both comfortable with the mechanics, but also is not going to get frustrated with the game, because I know that like on tabletop RPGs, like we get emotionally invested sometimes, and you don't want somebody who's going to get frustrated when things are going poorly with the gameplay. So having somebody who can just step back and go like, okay, yes, this is a game and I love the game, but it's also a show. I can roll with what's happening, and we'll get through this. Even if I don't agree with a ruling from the GM, or I really don't like what happened to my character, it's cool. Like we can keep the energy up and the pacing moving forward.
And I would also say try and find as much diversity as you can.
Yeah.
Because like there are way to, like, I understand that I am a white man in tabletop RPGs. Like there are too many of me. Let's find other people.
One of our occasional cast, Jen Kretschmer, is very big in empowering the disabled community within gaming, and she is currently putting together her own show that is only disabled gamers, and that it's great because it shows a spotlight on an entire different community that not everyone is aware exists.
When you're doing your research to find other streams and stuff, like go find those. Go find those creators and support them too. Yeah, for sure.
Great. Next question comes from Twitch. Sarah BC1 asks, how many cameras do you use? I know one for couch, one for gym. Any others?
This is a stab at dice cams, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of
Dice cam.
there were golden days when we had many more cameras.
Currently, we use 2. We have the facility to use 4 if needed. We have intentions to have up to 9 going at one time.
I would love 9 cameras. Oh man, that'd be great.
What kind of things do you guys think about when you're creating a PC for a game as a show versus when you're creating a PC just for like your home table? Do you ask yourselves different questions? Do you try to have different goals for them than you might normally would?
When I am doing a PC for a for a game at home, it can be a PC just within the world that I don't necessarily know how they are going to react to the characters, because the characters haven't met them yet. When I ran the show for 2 weeks, I took over and I did it. I just crushed them all and broke their spirits real good. But when I ran that part of it, my goal was any PC that they met, that they talked to, had an instant relationship with the character. Something that either happened in the past or that they currently felt with. And this of course I was doing a backstory episode, so they would have had these interactions. But in terms of like, I don't really have time to like suss out how I feel about you right now because you're buying a sword from me and now we got to move on to the next person. So maybe I've already met you, but I have an emotional reaction more so than I think I would at a home game.
When my character came in, it was a little different. My character came in on an episode where we were missing some couch members and it was a very pivotal fight. So I created Mug with the intention of helping them get through the fight. I made sure I took enough healing and enough battlefield control kind of situation. So he was a kind of character that was built out of necessity to help the show continue. Versus I don't think, given my own, I would have made mug this way.
You say I'm the metagamer. Look at that right over there.
That's true. But, you know, metagaming happens. Yeah.
We're the producers. We can do what we want.
Was there a... Yeah.
So that goes into our next question from Twitch. Shadzar asks, let's see. Oh, sorry, I missed it. Shadgar asks, when streaming a game, do you put the stream or show first for the game, and how does that affect your players and their enjoyment of the game?
I would love to say, I mean, I love GMing, and I love tabletop role-playing games, and I love the idea of the game being streamed to all of you in its pure state, where it's just about the mechanics and the game, and the gameplay always flows smoothly. But the truth is that if you decide to do a show, you have to put the show first a lot of the times. Again, like even the idea that we monetize through donations and those donations can affect the game directly, sometimes like that creates real problems, like in a fight where if the audience is giving my players so many bonuses and boosts that it kind of trivializes the fight, I feel like but I can't let myself get down about that. Yeah. Even if I wanted this big epic fight and now it's kind of easy for them because they got all these boosts and bonuses, I still got to maintain that energy, because at the end of the day, what's happening is people are giving the show money. Like they're giving money. It's like, that's how we stay alive. So I have to like support that and be, you know, like it's an important part of it. So yeah, the show has to come first, even though, yeah, in my secret evil GM heart, I'm like, I wanted to get him this time. It's like, oh no.
I would say also, when you're building a show, build it around your cast, not your characters. That way you can, if you kill a character, it's not as like if we had branded like our show is always this guy, and then all of a sudden this guy's dead, all of our past is gone, and all the like branding we've done is now changed. But if you build it around like Ben, then Ben can just play another character and continue the story.
As a player, the show coming first before the game comes first is sometimes incredibly frustrating. It happens. But there was a span of 2 weeks that this happened where, like, my character got knocked to 0 strength, and I was in the beginning, and I could not do anything, and I was laying there paralyzed the entire time. And then the next episode came, and we were in this place, and it was, how do you want to interact with the environment? And Jim was like, well, we'll go ahead and we'll have 10 minutes with each person, and then we'll move on with the story. And so I gave my 10 minutes, and then everybody else took an hour. And so it was like those times that, you know, I got frustrated but the show necessitated those moments. They had to happen in the show. And, you know, as a player, I definitely was in good contact with my GM, and I was like, hey, I'm frustrated by this. I'm not going to let it affect the show, but I would like you to know that I'm frustrated, just so that we can move past it. And but during the show, I have to sit there. I have to listen. So that's one of the things. Remain engaged. Yeah. That's one of the things where it's good that we do a live show and we read comments, because even if I'm not being used, I can still read comments, I can still chime in, and I can still joke around every once in a while, but still be engaged with the audience at all times. So.
And luckily, when Ben's frustrated, I can just ignore that because I don't care. So,
yeah,
it's true. It's easy.
Hey guys, what technology have you found that is a waste of time? That just you've tried it and it didn't work for you, or it doesn't monetize like maybe you thought? It doesn't have to be monetary, but what technology do you think you'd advise people avoid? You've tried it, it didn't work for you. And then we have a big community that's podcasting, audio only.
Yeah.
So if they want to go to the next level, that has a value judgment to it, but and it shouldn't. But if they want to explore more video or more Twitch, what do you think the next steps are for going from audio to whatever the next thing is?
I mean, the technology thing that's a deep question that bears more thought than I can spout here.
I can tell you that that I was using Sirenscape on a tablet, and it didn't work for the stream. Like, it got in the way. I had to pick it up. It was all over the place. I was fumbling finding the things. Like, I love Sirenscape as an app and as a sound design company, but the tablet itself did not work for me. And so that was like one of those things. We had to buy a whole extra computer. We had to transfer everything that I had previously worked on the creator, switch it all over to this thing, bring it all up, and now I just run from the creator. And so like that was the only way that I could really make that adjustment and get rid of the tablet in my hand. It just got in the way. So those things happen.
Next step wise, honestly, I'd say baby steps. If you go back and look at our first episode compared to where we are now, and even 3 months after our first episode, exponentially better. I'm not personally aware of any that have transitioned and become like primarily a video one. They're still usually a podcast first, and then they've added some cameras, which is nice because it is still more content. The thing you have to remember with a podcast, it can be edited. Live video can't. So you have to be prepared for that. I know the guys over at GCP delved into videos live play with the PF2 playtest.
It's just different.
So
you know?
like they'd probably have a different viewpoint than we would because we started at video.
Honestly, if away from equipment and away from like if you are in a podcast form where you have the luxury of editing, you can control the content, and you want to move into a live format where you're streaming and doing video, if you have the ability, take an improv class with your group so that you all know how to play off of each other easily. That's a big step. Learn how to be quick on your feet with your cast. That's huge.
Next question comes from Twitch again. It's Lucas Martinez wonders, what is the one thing that happened during prepping the show that you did not prepare for?
We didn't prepare for Ben cutting a hole in the wrong when he was building the set. He cut a hole in the slats in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
We didn't prepare for his terrible mistakes.
Are you kidding me? I'm never gonna live this thing down. All right, listen. I grew up the son of a carpenter. All right. They said, "Hey Ben, you want to build a set?" I said, "Yep, I can build a set for you." All right. I'm not a straight up carpenter. All right. I know, but I can do it.
You didn't preface that.
Okay. So
That's
then
when we weren't prepared.
I
for
cut the
his
hole in
lack
the
of-
wrong place. So, but he can't find it anymore. So it's no big deal.
I would say we were not prepared for the 112-degree days in a garage.
Yup.
We were in LA. Yeah.
Because you can't have an AC, like a regular AC in there. It's going to be too loud. So our solution is actually a server cooler because it pumps air in. And that's still just on the edge
you still don't
just
like the sound
on the edge of
the
working.
Yeah.
It's too loud. And
But that's one of those things where reality is sort of conflicting with the show's needs. Like the thing is, like in LA in the summer, we cannot stream at our location without some way to cool that space that we're using. So that's a logistical concern that's sort of unique to our show. But I'm sure that wherever you're recording or streaming, you have to plan for like not just what is going to happen tomorrow, but like in December, are you in a super cold space where you need the heater on, and does that heater generate noise? Well, if you're doing a podcast or a live stream, account for that noise and account for how you're going to manage it, mitigate it, or get around it, because
Make
it's
it a
not
character.
good. Yeah,
make it a spooky
yes.
character that comes
It's
around.
just the spooky winter heater noise. Yeah.
Final question comes from the real POTUS98, who wonders, how do you create such wonderful NPCs like Sir Jonathan the Bold, who have contributed so much?
Can I
to
take
the
this
Dynamite
microphone
Show?
off? I gotta get out of here.
Creating NPCs is a lot about creating sort of a unique personality for each one. At the table, sometimes, at home, it's easy to. Ben's just frustrated because Sir Jonathan the Bold was mentioned. You can come back, Ben. I'm not gonna do the voice.
Thank you.
Come on back.
you should probably do the voice.
I should probably do the voice. But it's about creating. You want your NPCs to be distinct from each other, because when you're on the stream, people are going to remember in a year the stable boy that Craig talked to. And when the PCs go back to that town where the stable boy lived, the PCs are gonna go and talk to that kid. and you have to remember, like, there's a recording, there's evidence of what you did, the voice you used, and the personality you gave him, and you have to make sure that it's distinct enough that you can remember it and jump back into it easily, because that's all. It doesn't just go away like sometimes it does at a table game. People forget things, people move on.
So
NPCs resonate. About a third of our fan art is NPCs.
I got a little trick for that, and that is when I'm going into a place where I know that my players will meet an NPC, I will quickly record myself on the voice record app saying, well, this is this character and this is his name, and I say this by going through the side of my mouth, and I've got a little bit of a cockney going on, and then that's it, and then I'll title it that character's name. And then if I know, like, oh, hey, they're going back to this town, boom, I'll just play it real fast, and I have 20 seconds of me being like, okay, that was that character, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Anyone out there that's looking to find me, I'm at Look It's Ben Burch, Burch. And then also you can find me on Dragons and Things every Friday night at Dat Dragon Show. You can also
At Dat Dragon Show.
Yeah. And that's Jim Jam.
I'm at Evil Jim Jam on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm at Jared Hoy on all the things.
Yeah, come find us. Come watch our show. It's 6 p.m. every Friday night, except when we're at a convention. We go live at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So, yeah.
Be specific about Pacific.
Twitch.tv/DatDragonShow. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
And that was Gaming as a Show, featuring the crew from Dragons and Things. I have been podcasting for 10 years, over 10 years. It's going on 11 years. And even I learned a few things from that panel. They definitely have their game together. And of course, you there, who are frequenters to the official Paizo Twitch channel, already know that. I mean, they're here on this channel weekly. You know how good they are. Sure. And I really, really appreciate how open they were to sharing it and talking about the podcasting and live streaming community. Now, V, how have you enjoyed becoming a podcaster?
I really liked it. I've listened to a lot of actual play podcasts. It's pretty much all I listen to in my car anymore. People ask me about current music, and I don't know who that is because I'm listening to actual plays. So becoming an actual play podcaster and podcaster in general has been really fun. I think it's given me another avenue to connect with the community and see what all's out there. And the actual play stuff itself is just really fun because now I get to share all my silly home game fun, but with everybody. That's really cool.
Now, we've had some fun adventures here at PaizoCon 2019, especially me and you. On Monday, we got to play in a very fun, very special Starfinder game. Do you remember that one?
On Monday?
I'm sorry, on the
On
first
Saturday.
day. On Saturday?
Friday.
Friday.
A lot of them.
It was Friday. They're all blended together, folks. I live here. This is my desk. This is where I eat. This is where I sleep. And this is where I bring you PaizoCon 2019 all weekend long. But no, it was Friday, definitely for sure. John Compton, Thurston Hillman, Amanda Hammond, and Liz Liddell, and you, of course, you were wonderful, and Ryan, and we don't get to play together in a physical space very much, and you could not ask for a better crew to play with than those Paizo juggernauts. Of course, the laughs were frequent, and we were playing an all Vesk crew. Well, almost. You started off as?
So I started off as Keskadai, the Starfinder Society's sort of default pre-gen mystic, a Shirin, and did not fit in with the rest of the party. So at one point, one of the other party members said, "Hey, can we trade out this Shirin for for that other Vesk over there?"
We won't spoil it, but we were in a scenario in which there was another team competing with us, and we traded Vanessa for the other team member, because Vesk. And that was 4 Obazayas, Ryan's brand new Vesk character who punched things with a skull, which was the skull of himself from the future. And then, of course, there is your character. Now, who did you end up taking over?
I took over, I won't say the name because I don't want to spoil anything, but a character that was a Vesk mechanic with a stealth drone, and that was really cool. Because you think Vesk and they're always soldiers and they're always something brutish or Solarian, but a mechanic was fun.
Now, you mentioned the stealth drone. Now,
Yeah.
I've played a bunch of mechanics, and I've seen people that use the little stompy bot, the melee bot, and then I've seen the combat one. And I've seen people use the hover drone a lot, and that one seems to be probably the most popular.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, but I don't see a lot of people playing stealth drone. What do you think about that?
It was interesting. So the stealth drone has stealth, obviously. It also has a climb speed, so it can get places that like the Stompy bot can't get to. Not quite as maneuverable as the hover drone, but it's pretty resilient. And I think if you want to use like a drone for more utility, like if you have a really combat-oriented mechanic, and then the drone could just be your utility, I think a stealth drone could be really cool. Give it a camera, control arm, and then really help it, scout ahead and do things like that. I think it'd be very useful.
Seems to be a lot like how useful a snake familiar is for our Pathfinder players.
Yes, I think so.
And that reminds me of one of my Pathfinder Society players and his snake, the Danger Noodle.
Danger Noodle?
Yes, indeed. He just recently retired his character, made it to level 12.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, everyone. So besides that, we, of course, the banquet. Yesterday was the banquet, and we found out so much stuff.
The banquet was so exciting.
I mean, well, we found out, for one, that you have a credit coming up, don't you?
I do. It was announced actually at a panel, and they talked about it at the banquet. The new Threefold Conspiracy Adventure Path that's
Right.
coming out beginning of 2020 for Starfinder. I have a credit in that. So I'm going to be writing part 5 of 6 of that, which is Starfinder number 29, The Cradle Infestation. And it's all about the creepy conspiracies that are going on behind the scenes, and I'm so excited to write it.
Now, you've written a lot of adventures before, especially in Starfinder Society, right?
I've written a bunch, both Pathfinder and Starfinder.
Okay. This is your first AP.
This is my first Paizo AP.
Paizo AP.
That's right. So I am writing also for John Brazier Enterprises to do a launch on their new Shadowspell campaign. So I'm doing that. So I have an adventure path there coming out soon, probably around October. So that'll technically be out first as my first adventure path.
Right.
As my first Paizo adventure path. But I am no less excited about it.
Indeed. And I am definitely glad that we are going to continue to see more of your adventures and writing in the future. Do you think it's a little bit nervous that this is, the Paizo AP is sort of the big show?
Yes, there's always going to be nerves, especially when you're writing something that has as much exposure as that. I feel pretty confident about it, though. I do have special credit, which in the society realm is sort of the big show there. So I do have that under my belt. So I've had that pressure before,
Right.
And I definitely feel up to the task.
Excellent. And I know you're up to the task, V, because you help keep No Direction. For those of you who do not know, V here has been a vital part of No Direction ever since she joined the network, and I'm continually impressed with how she does both on air and off air to keep our network running. And so, of course, she's been one of my many great volunteers here to help me. I actually shouldn't say the V word. They're not volunteers. They're staff members of No Direction. We have not had any volunteers this year. We can't, I'm afraid. But we have I have really enjoyed all the staff support from No Direction, including you and Alex and Randall and Ryan. And oh my gosh, we could not have achieved what we have done this weekend without this being a team effort.
Absolutely.